Welcome everybody to another evening of Jägermeister Cup final previews. There's two teams in the final. We had the head coach from Northern Colorado on the show last night. We have Ford Madison's head coach here tonight. My name is Rich. You can find me on Twitter at I'm Rich But I'm Not. Joined as always by Brian. You can find him on Twitter at Mediocre Ace. Brian, how you doing, man?
Oh, I'm doing good. This is really cool to be able to interview two coaches back to back on back to back nights. So I'm super excited.
Yeah, this is man, this is really cool. I can't even express how stoked I am for this opportunity. So without further ado, I mean, the man, the legend, Matt Glaeser, coach of Ford Madison. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing well, guys. Thanks for having me, and appreciate what you guys are doing here. I think it's really cool and a big part of growing the league. Yeah, I'm just really happy to be on the podcast here and have a chat with you guys, and yeah, see how it goes.
Thanks, making your debut tonight. So congrats on the cap.
Thanks.
Well, Brian, what are you drinking tonight?
Tonight I just got some liquid death. Like I said yesterday, I'm out of alcohol for the foreseeable future. Well, until Saturday when the Huskers play, and I actually have to drink to watch them most of the time. So
Yeah,
until then, I'm out.
I finished the bottle last night during that interview, so I went out today to get some Four Roses. Yeah,
Very nice.
and then I even got a wood tumbler so I can get the authentic
Wow,
experience from it all.
some style there.
Yeah, I know. Well, Coach, are you drinking anything tonight?
I had a bit of red wine with dinner and just some water at the moment. Yeah, like got an early flight in the morning, but I like the Four Roses shout, Rich. That's a go-to for me as well. So.
Nice.
Very nice.
Um, do you have any troubles with flying, or is it just pretty much second nature at this point?
Like personally?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, no, I'm good. Yeah, I think in this business, especially in the USL League One, regional markets in the National League, yeah, if you have problems, you take your Dramamine, and you just kind of get on with it. But yeah, I think we're all in the same boat regarding that. So,
Are
but I know.
you an aisle seat guy or are you a window seat
I
guy?
hope so. I mean, I'm 6'6", 240, so I try to get in the aisle if our esteemed folks over at the travel agency can make that work. That's always a nice thing.
I can only imagine. Um, well, I mean, since you're here, Coach, and we don't want to take too much of your time, we'll just jump right into it. Really, just kind of some. What are your general thoughts, kind of heading into the match on Saturday? I mean, it's a big match and everything between these two really good clubs who have played really well in this tournament.
Yeah, I mean, look for us at Forward Madison. It's a massive game for us. I mean, I think as far as the history of our football club goes, we haven't played in a final. So this is a moment to do that. It's a moment to try and win a trophy for the first time in the history of our club. So we're excited about it. It's a big game for us. It's been an interesting competition. I'm sure we'll probably get into all that later, but I think living in the moment and being present, all things accounted, like we're happy to be there. We feel like we've had a good body of work this season in general, both in the league and in the cup. And yeah, we're going to go for it and give our best effort. And I think everyone around the club is excited.
And speaking of some of that excitement, what how does this tournament and all the successes you've had with the group stage and the knockout round, what does it mean to you uh, and to the rest of the club to be able to be playing in the final, especially like you just said, for the first time in club history?
Yeah, like I said, it's a big deal. I mean, like you know, playing in, I think it's still something that's I wouldn't. It's a little bit new for our football club to play in knockout games, to play in big games, and we're learning it. It's been a process, and I've said it a couple of times in different interviews, but I think for us it's been a progression. It's been a plan of trying to get the product on the field better over time. It needed to happen. I think we're making some good progress. I think we're in a position to look. The goal at the beginning of the season for us was to put ourselves in a position to try and win trophies, and we're currently in second place in the regular season, and we're playing in the cup final. So, as of this moment, and that's all things considered. You know how tight we know how tight the league is, and we have a difficult week next week. But all things considered, in this moment right now, we've kind of put ourselves in a position that we'd like to be in. Apart from, of course, in a perfect world, I wish we were 10 points clear, or in the regular season or what have you, or hosting the final. But outside of those things, I think it's been a decent year for us, and another step towards the progression that we wanted to have here.
Yeah, I mean, talking a little bit more, we kind of didn't really touch on it, but we can jump into it now. Can you talk maybe a little bit about this tournament, and what are some of the things that you as a coach like about this tournament?
For me, it's just been some adding meaningful games. I think what starts to happen sometimes in the American landscape, in a regular season, when you see a more extended regular season, is there's more of a separation in the table, and without promotion and relegation, you start to see maybe teams that start to play their academy kids, or if there's nothing to play for sort of down the stretch, you see those games start to maybe go in a certain way. Like we've been a victim of that in the past, where you're looking at, all right, who am I going to re-sign for next year, and the meaningfulness of games maybe starts to deteriorate a little bit. And I think what the cup competition has provided is meaningful games. The Omaha game we played at the end of the group stage was a fantastic. The 3-3 game, what a game! It was a great game. I think that was a meaningful game. As far as there was stuff on the line for both teams. As far as just the feel of it. So I think that the more we can create meaningful games, the more we can create a fast-paced, energized kind of feel around games. I think it's better for everyone. And I think that's probably, in my opinion, the biggest sort of benefit of what the Cup's brought. But I know different teams have approached it in different ways, and fair enough. I think everyone in a third division league is always there's going to be a growing, some growing pains, and sort of how to approach a competition like this. And everyone's different, but we've been fortunate enough to be in a position to be able to compete in sort of both competitions.
And when the tournament was announced and they started talking about some of the rules, especially with like the tiebreakers, goals scored being the first tiebreaker, were you going into the tournament fully focused on the 3 points, or were you looking to also create an edge uh, by scoring obviously as many goals as you can to achieve that first tiebreaker?
Yeah, no, for us, like, we didn't really change our approach. We rotated the team some, but that was more out of, I thought we're in a place to be able to do that. We didn't really like approach games in a different way. For us, it was, we kind of have our identity. I think it's pretty clear if you ask around the league, like we kind of do what we do. It's not like we're going to kind of change up who we are in large parts. So I think, I think it's, we knew that goal scored was going to be the tiebreaker and going to be the wild card thing. But I think for us, the goal was to win our group. We were able to do that. We'll always sort of put a premise on winning. But obviously, goal scored is cool, and I thought that's part of what made the game, or like our game against Omaha, the final sort of group stage game. I thought it was such an awesome game because they knew they had to score. We knew we had to get something out of the game to advance. So it made for a really interesting contrast and like a really interesting game. So I think it's interesting. I think the concept of the penalties, the penalties post 90 straight away is interesting for the extra point. I think that's a good thing. The goal score thing is, I think it depends who you ask. I think it depends who you ask, but I think it certainly it has the ability to make games more interesting.
Yeah, and so we were talking a little bit before the podcast kicked off, and you had mentioned that you're friends off of the pitch with with Coach Amen as well. So, can you talk about maybe a little bit of going into it, coaching against somebody that you know and somebody that you consider a friend, if what that kind of does for you going into it mentally?
Yeah, it's part of the business. I mean, we're a lot of us have known each other. So Eamon and I um, b- got introduced and have a mutual friend and his assistant, Colin Falvey. We all played in the USL, so we sort of have that in common, and we kind of know the ropes as far as having played in USL and sort of the American soccer's lower division. So I think there's probably an understanding there to sort of the way things go. They obviously have their way of doing things. We have our way of doing things, but I think just like those guys off the pitch, like been a friend of Colin, his assistant, and I worked together in Sacramento as assistant coaches. So yeah, no, I mean I think it's always one of those things where you can have the mutual respect and the friendship, and then obviously when it's time to go to work, that dissipates for a little bit, and your adversaries for that time, and pretty normal in the sporting world. And I think it's a good thing, and I like the having a mutual respect and understanding, and then obviously being able to go out and compete is what we do for a living.
And immediately following the Jaeger Cup final on Saturday night, Ford Madison hits the road for not one, but two regular season matches next week. You played Tuesday at One Knox and then Friday at Charlotte. So you have the Jägermeister Cup within your grasp, but you're also within striking distance of the Players' Shield. So how do you balance the focus, not only for yourself, but for your players?
It's a great question. I wish the situation were different. To be honest, I mean, I think you guys, as fans of other teams in the league, will know. I mean, I think it puts us in a tough spot. I mean, if we're being 100% honest, I mean, it puts us in a tough spot, right? We're trying to catch Omaha. We're trying to solidify a playoff position. Um, it puts us in a really difficult position. So that wasn't some of that was scheduling, some of that was luck, some of that was we could go on and on about how we ended up in the situation where we're traveling across a couple of time zones and needing points in every game we play. But I think for us, it's taking it one. Yeah, of course I have a plan. Of course I have a plan A and B and C. I think as a coach you have to have that. But I think for us, it's going to be about being present, taking it one game at a time. We've put a precedent on trying to win the game on Saturday, and then we'll see where we're at. We've got some guys on yellow cards. We'll see who's healthy. There's altitude. There's travel. There's a hurricane coming up the eastern seaboard. So there's a lot of factors, and we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes, and take it one day at a time. But yeah, we obviously want to we obviously want to try to get points in all those games. And I think my feeling is that the entirety of our roster will be called upon next week.
I mean, that makes sense. So with everything on Saturday, it guarantees that one of the two clubs will hoist a piece of silverware for the first time in their club's history, as we talked about earlier. I guess kind of talk about what that would mean from your perspective to the fans, because we know that Forward Madison fans show up and show out for every single match. So just kind of talk about what it would feel like to bring a piece of silverware to those fans that have stuck by you guys since the inception of the team.
Yeah, we want to reward these guys. I've kind of said it since I came in, and we had a tough first year in 22, and had to kind of blow it up, and things have progressed a little bit each year. But I think I felt that from day one since I came to the football club. Our fan base is very good and strong, and we have fans just like you guys who care, and we're doing podcasts, and these fans care about the team. They know the league. They care about the league. And obviously my goal has been to reward those guys, to reward those fans. I mean, they're out there rain or shine. Some of the best crowds we've had were early in my tenure when we were having a losing season, and they stuck by us. So I think my hope is that all the work that we've all put in together to get going in a good direction. My hope is that it manifests itself and something where we can all feel rewarded from it. There's no guarantees, but and it's certainly a very difficult game on Saturday for us. But we've all put in a lot of work and effort, and I include the fans in that. I think they've stuck by us, and a number of them are coming out to the game. So yeah, I'd love to reward our fan base and get something done, but I wish I could make those guarantees. But that's the sport. That's why we love it, because we're on pins and needles, and we're hoping for the result.
Now, I don't mean to jinx anything, but if Forward Madison wins on Saturday, with the incredible game day experience that they have in Bree Stevens Field, you have to believe they're going to have a ginormous victory parade. What does a victory parade look like for you in Madison?
Nah, I couldn't even get into that. I have no idea. And like I appreciate the question, but I think like yeah, that's hard for me to even. I've been a part of one of those in my coaching career, and it was awesome. I do think it would be cool, but it's hard for me to like. It's hard for me to even get into that mind space. Like I think my feeling is that my experience in Madison since I've been at the club has been positive all around. My experience has been people know and care about the team, and I think that would manifest itself in a great atmosphere if we were to win a trophy of any kind. So yeah, I appreciate the question, but yeah, we'll stick to just trying to take care of business here first.
I don't blame you one bit.
Yeah. And so I imagine, Coach, that you do quite a bit of film review as well. You guys did play Northern Colorado at home back in week 15. Ended up losing that 1-0. What did you see in person in that match that may have not have popped up in your film review of Northern Colorado?
Yeah, I just think I probably get more out of the matches when I watch them back, because in the moment, obviously as a coach, there's a lot of things going on. I think a lot of times as coaches, and different coaches do it in different ways. I have assistants doing certain things, and I'm doing certain things. My main focus on us in a match is our group, and are we executing the things that I've asked them to execute, because that's how I. It's hard for me to like give any context, or for me to evaluate like if my game plan was the correct one or not, if I don't know what we're doing, or if I'm not super clear about what I see us doing and what we're trying to accomplish. So I spend a lot of time on the game day watching us, and I ask my assistant coaches to look at the opponent a little bit more. And usually we get a lot more clarity after the fact. Sometimes in a game, you're like, all right, like I thought we were crap in that game. And then you watch it back and you're like, oh, it wasn't that bad. Or sometimes it's the opposite. Sometimes you're like, oh man, we were brilliant. We were doing this, we were doing that. You watch it back and you're like, boy, we weren't that good. I think, watching the games back and reassessing is always important. And we usually get a lot more out of that process, I would say. Um, Colorado's a tough one, and that game in particular was a tough game because we were on short rest. We had a rescheduled midweek game against Central Valley on the Wednesday, and we had to play them on the weekend, and they were coming off of a full week's rest, and I thought quite frankly it wasn't one of our better games of the season. So I try to take all of that context into consideration. We try to look at the game plan. We try to look at what the opponent do. We try to look at what we want to do, and yeah, I think it's a good matchup. I think it's a pretty even matchup, in my opinion. I think they do some things really well. We do some things pretty well. We're probably maybe a little bit of a contrast, in identities. That's been mentioned a few times. That's probably no secret. But I think it makes out for if we show up and if we show up in the right frame of mind. I have a lot of confidence in our group to get a result.
And with that focus on execution, it has paid off huge dividends for you this season. I mean, even looking at the Jägermeister Cup, Forward Madison had arguably one of the hardest schedules in the Jägermeister Cup. Yet they survived the group stage by winning a difficult group alongside One Knox, Lexington, Chattanooga. And if you include the out of group opponents going to Charlotte and hosting Union Omaha, with the odds seemingly stacked against you, how did you maintain such consistent excellence in the group stage?
I would say our depth helped us big time. I think we were in a position to where we were able to build a pretty robust roster as far as experienced players, guys that have been there and done it. Um, and that was a big focus for us in the offseason to add quality to the group. So I think being able to rotate, being able to rotate the team and not miss much has helped us a lot. I think look, we grinded out some tough games. I mean, in my opinion, I think our group is tough, but I think all the groups are tough. I think Northern Colorado's schedule was, I think they had to play out of conference or out of group. They had to play Knoxville away, and they smacked them. They had to play, and I think they might have had to play. Was it Omaha? No, Omaha was in their group. There was another team that I thought that
They
they had
played
to
Charlotte.
play. Yeah, that's enough. So for them, it wasn't
It's tough.
wasn't much easier, right? So I think generally I just think there's a lot of parity in our league. I think Tormenta is very well coached. I think Omaha is very well coached. I think you could go on and on, and I think there's a lot of good coaches and a lot of good teams and players, and I think really in our league. I almost think anyone can win, and I think the home field advantage is a big deal. But I really feel like there's so much parity and it's so tight. You look at the league table. I think a lot of things can happen. So I think to answer your question, that's a long-winded thing to say. I think our depth was probably a big factor for us because there were some midweek games, some travel, some moments where we had to trust the roster, and we did that, and I think that's paid dividends for us.
Yeah, and I mean, going into a little bit further into the group stage, uh, Ford Madison only went to PKs once, and you defeated Union Omaha in PKs. So with only one match going into PKs and the group stage, and only taking two in the regular season, how much of an emphasis have you placed on practicing those penalty kicks in practice?
We look at it. We look at it. We do a lot of work more so on the analysis side of that, rather than I don't like making players take a ton of practice penalty kicks. I just don't think it's realistic. I was a goalkeeper myself. I've been in shootouts. We do it. Don't get me wrong. Like we will have guys take them, and we'll do it every now and then. But it's not something where we're out there, spending every day taking penalties. For me, it's really more about personality. It's really more about confidence, and a bit of luck, if I'm being honest. So I think we focus more on sort of my staff and I will have sort of some metrics ready when the situation arises, and then my hope is that I've tried to instill a lot of confidence in the group, and the big thing we talk about when we talk about penalty kicks is personality and confidence, and that's kind of how we tend to approach it.
And moments ago, you were just talking about how your depth made a difference. And when you look at your roster, as you mentioned, you definitely do have plenty of depth. You have a roster full of veteran players. When you look at Northern Colorado, it's kind of the opposite. They have a lot more youth on their side. Talk to us a little bit about your methodology, why you decided to go with maturity and experience over youth and development.
Sure. I mean, I think they have depth as well. To be candid, I think their depth is pretty strong in that group. I think like for us, it was more about we were sort of in a moment where we were in the third year of a cycle in my tenure here, and we were more like, all right, let's go and try and get the best, most experienced players that we could convince to come to the club. And sort of while doing that, keeping some, I think we kept like 12 or 13 guys from last season, so we kept a bit of continuity. We felt like that was a big deal in League One. The method for us was get the best available, get the most experienced guys that had played in big games in our league. And so that was what we tried to go and do. Devin Boyce, Jimmy Villalobos, Murphy, Juan Galindres, the list can kind of go on. Garrett McLaughlin now. We've tried to add guys that have been there, that have played in playoff games and finals and playoff games in League One. And the hope was that that was going to pay off when it came down to these crunch time moments, and that remains to be seen. But I think that was sort of the idea. It was sort of like we're in the third year of a cycle. We kind of stepped away a little bit from the developmental kind of thing. We were like, all right, yeah, of course we love young players. It's not that we don't, but yeah, it was kind of, we wanted to throw everything into this season and try and get the most out of it. So that was kind of the idea. I didn't look at it and say, all right, we got to have, 6 28-year-olds, 4 23-year-olds, 10 academy. We don't have an academy at the moment at Forward Madison. So we didn't really do it in maybe the sort of modern, KPI focused kind of way. We kind of looked contextually at USL League One and said, how can we get the best team on the field possible? And then we'll kind of mold and be adaptable. And that's kind of the way we did it.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about adaptability. I mean, anybody that watches Forward Madison can kind of see that you guys play a really fluid, dynamic kind of system, and you kind of let your players roam and cover a lot of ground. So that being said, you are going up to altitude to play Northern Colorado in Colorado. Has there been any adjustments to your system at all to kind of combat the altitude up there?
I don't think major ones. I mean, it's hard to change your identity for a game. I think it's really going to be more a few tweaks here and there. How can we be as efficient as possible in certain moments? How can we kill transitions before they happen? Obviously, they're a team that likes to get out and run. For us, that's same against Charlotte, same against Omaha, same against a lot of teams in our league. And so for us, it's usually a big deal for us to try and negate that and control the game as much as we can. That's a big thing that we try to do. I don't think it really changes a ton. I think there's probably a few adjustments that we'll make in certain moments to play as smart, as intelligently as possible. But yeah, for us, I don't see like a big shift in what we do, or I think it's just maybe making sure we're disciplined. Making sure we're disciplined on both sides of the ball. But that's not going to be too different from what we ask of the guys in general.
And the discipline is there because even just looking at last year's stats, you averaged 1.25 goals conceded at the end of the regular season. This year, you are currently on pace for less than 1 goal conceded per match. Has there been a major shift in your approach? Is it the veterans on the roster? What's the secret to that success?
No, we've just, I think we've gotten a little bit better at what we want to do, and we've added some quality. Some of that's qualitative. We have good center backs. I really like all 4 of our center backs. We're fortunate in that way. They've all been big for us. So I think when you have, my feeling is that when you have depth in the roster, you can, it becomes a little bit more implicit as far as, okay, like if our striker's not going to defend as much, maybe in the way that we want him to, well, okay, I've got another one that's pretty much on the same level. And so I think that depth has really allowed us to be a little bit more deliberate, and I think that's helped us. We say everybody does everything. So I ask Cheney to defend. I ask Juan Galindres to defend. I ask Garrett McLaughlin to defend, and that's not always something that strikers love doing or enjoy doing. But we try to say everybody does everything, and that's on both sides of the ball. So I think that's helped us defensively. Our goalkeeping's been solid. Our defensive play has been pretty good. But I think it's a team thing, and that's been a big focus for us.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just watching Forward Madison play. I mean, as I said earlier, you guys show a lot of creativity and instinct moving along the field and asking your players to defend, even if they're attackers, and you can rotate them and do what you need to do. Obviously, that has played a huge part in the success of your squad this season. You guys went 9 undefeated in your first matches. So how is it that you were able to develop kind of that chemistry with your players so quickly and sustain it over such a long period of time?
I think the continuity from last season helps. I mean, I think like having sort of a core group of 12 or 13 guys returning, who kind of know what you want, generally, even if there's some tweaks here or there, who kind of know what the principles are, who kind of know what the culture needs to be. That helped. And then I think really the guys that we brought in were like open. They were open minded, and they bought into what we were trying to do, and that's hard. I mean, it's hard for any coach, and in League One, with how transient the league is, and how much movement there is, in rosters, and so on and so forth. It's not easy, but I think the continuity helped us. I think leadership in the locker room. Mitch Osmond, being our captain, has done a really nice job of keeping the group together, and a couple others as well. So we've got some good leaders in there, some good people, and yeah, we just haven't hit the panic button, as yet. We haven't hit the panic button if something doesn't go our way or it's not exactly how we drew it up. I think the guys have done a really good job of staying bought in and committed to what we want to do, and then it becomes a little bit easier for everyone. I think when kind of people generally know what's being asked of them.
What would you say is unique in your approach to your management style and maybe team bonding exercises or any other facets related to the club that would enable the veterans to buy in so quickly, to not hit that panic button, and to show that maturity?
Um, I think I think what happens. I played it at this level for a number of years, and I think what happens is a lot of times is a lot of the players in USL League One have been through the ringer to some extent. Maybe they've been in a situation that they were unhappy in, or they got burned once or twice, or and I think it's just I think and I don't want to speak too soon, but for me, a big thing is just trying to be upfront with them, trying to be candid about like how I see it. And it's not promising people you're going to do this or this, or you're going to score this many goals, or I'm going to play you this many games. It's really been for me more about here's what we do. We have a good team, and you're either in or you're out, And if you're in, I've got time for you, because I've given everyone on the team starts. I've given everyone on the team opportunities, and I think I've been pretty candid about that from day one. I also I also think it's really important for guys to be able to express themselves. I'm maybe a little bit new school in that way, as far as like if someone if there's an issue. I like to be able to have a conversation with somebody and listen to them, even if they're unhappy about certain things. I think it's okay to be frustrated. I think it's okay to be frustrated, but I think as long as it doesn't affect the group dynamic, and it doesn't affect what we're trying to get done as a group, and we understand that the team comes first, then it's okay. It's okay to be frustrated. It's okay to have some friction in the team. And I think like I think the communication for me has been that, and I hope that we've got a lot of veteran guys that have been around, and my hope is that trying to just kind of be upfront with them, and also try to treat them the way I'd like to be treated, has sort of helped, because I played in League One, and we are the equivalent of League One however many years ago, and I know how it is, and I know the challenges, and um, I know what these guys are going through more or less on a day to day basis. So we try to really approach it from that perspective, and humanize it, and my hope is that that pays dividends. But yeah, I mean, it's the other thing is that we all know, like when you're winning, everything's gravy, and then when you're not, everything's not gravy. So
And so, I mean, that kind of brings us to a question that maybe kind of ties in. So we talked earlier about how quick a turnaround you guys have as soon as this cup final ends. Um, how are you guys going to refocus on getting back to regular season play without losing sight of the main goal on Saturday, which is winning a trophy?
yeah, it's gonna be tough. I mean, like the focus this week, everyone's excited. We're focused solely on the game on Saturday. I think with the turnaround and travel, it's going to be extremely difficult. So I think we'll have to see. We'll have to play it by ear. I don't really have a magic solution for. Hey guys, like we gotta win on Saturday, and by the way, like you gotta hydrate, recover, rest. We're at the airport at 6:45 the next morning. And by the way, we got to turn around and win on Tuesday. So I think for us, it's more like, all right, let's take care of business. Let's do the best. Let's put our best foot forward here on the weekend. Let's reevaluate. Let's travel as well as we can. Let's try and do things as best as possible to get everyone recovered and feeling in a good mind state. And then we go from there. We go from there really. But to over plan, like I said, I as coaches we always we always want to feel like, oh, I got plan A, B, C, D. But I mean, you never know until you get punched in the mouth. And we hope that we hope that one of those plans is close to possible. But yeah, it's gonna be a tough week for us.
And speaking of the match on Saturday night, Northern Colorado and Ford Madison both, to be honest, have a high tendency of feeding the through balls, the passes into the final third, the countless touches inside the opponent's box, the goals scored in the opponent's box. With such a, it seems like this game is going to be a very fast one. And you kind of spoke a little bit earlier about trying to manage the tempo of the match. When the opening whistle blows, what's a key message that you're sending to your players to not jump the gun, to use way too much energy out of the starting blocks, to really keep it calm and really focus on playing the full 90 minutes?
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, the finals are always tough, and I think everyone's going to be revved up. A lot of times, even maybe between a super attacking team like Colorado and I think us, who are fairly solid attacking team, but maybe a little bit more pragmatic at times. But I think a lot of times these games end up being cagey affairs. They end up being nobody wants to make the mistake and this and that. So I think it'll be interesting to see. I mean, really, I wish I could tell you how I think the game's going to go. I think it could go a number of ways. I mean, it's one of those where I like when we played them last time, they scored a goal like a minute into the game, and it changed it. So I had a game plan. Okay, boom, that's out the window. Now what? And I think that's just the nature of the game. So I think we got to kind of have some things ready for different scenarios. But I think for our guys, I truly think the big thing for our guys is just trying to keep our composure. Everyone's going to be excited and wound up. I would think on both sides, and can we be composed? Can we control the moments? Can we control the important moments? And I hope that that's enough to get something done. But we don't really have like we're not like masters of the dark arts or anything. We'll probably go in and play a pretty square game.
Well, yeah, that kind of brings me to a question that I personally have. It's not really on here, but is there anything that you do pre-match that has turned into kind of a ritual, or maybe you're superstitious at all or anything? I don't know if you are, but kind of what is your game day routine, and does that kind of change at all with it being a cup final?
No, I'm not really superstitious. To be honest, I think it's funny. Like the game day for me is like I'm usually like trying to get some other stuff done or like not think about it too much. To be honest, because if you sit around all day till 7 o'clock or whatever at night stewing over it, it's not going to help anything. So I really try and like get some other work done, catch up on some emails or just some rest or whatever. And because that's kind of like the one day, like if you're a coach, like everything's kind of done, everything's kind of prepared by the morning of the game. And so for me, I just kind of try and get away from it or catch up on some other stuff that I need to. And then just try not to sit around and stew all day because that doesn't help anything. So everyone does it different. I know some guys are really superstitious and stuff like that. I'm not. At home, I'll usually like do a bike ride or something, like get out on my bike and do a bike ride. On the road, it's harder because you're kind of trapped in a hotel. So it's usually either catching up on some emails and work, and meeting with coaches, and taking care of some stuff, or it's just turning the lights off, and just chilling out as much as possible.
Well, now that you talked about getting on a bike ride there in Madison, I want to hear more about life for you in Madison. Do you go kayaking in those lakes too? I mean, there's plenty of stuff to be doing there in Madison.
Yeah, Madison's a great town, especially when the weather's warm. So like the summers, and this time of the year is incredible. My wife and I are, we're out on the bike paths quite a bit. That's something that we really enjoy doing. We do have a kayak, so we go out every once in a while. It's probably more like a couple of times a year, two, three, four max times a year. But yeah, Madison's a great town. Madison's a great town. It's a capital city. It's a cool town to get out and do stuff. And we live kind of not too far from the stadium, so we live kind of right on the isthmus, and walking distance to stuff. And so yeah, it's been like that side of it's been fun, and yeah, just trying to be active, and get out and do some stuff away from work. Really, I think a lot of times what happens with us as coaches, we get so engulfed and so caught up in the job, because it's so it's so taxing that I try to we try to we, I try to really I've tried recently to really do a better job of getting out and doing some things other than just for Madison work.
Yeah, and I mean, um, I this question got asked of Coach yesterday too, so I feel like we have to ask you. With it being close to Halloween season, do you have a bit of a sweet tooth? What kind of stuff are you getting on Halloween?
Halloween is my wife's favorite holiday, so we usually we'll do something. We'll usually do something. We'll do a little outfit or two. We've got a couple of good ones. We've had a few good ones in the past, but no, nothing. I'm not like a big, excuse me, like a big candy eater or anything. We'll usually try and like get together with some friends, or even if it's just making the house as Halloween centric as possible, and passing out candy to the neighborhood kids or whatever. We're usually doing something along those lines.
Any idea what this year's costume is going to be?
Nah, I haven't heard yet. I'm waiting for the boss to tell me, so we'll see. We did a pretty good Pulp Fiction one in the
Oh,
past. We did a
that's
good
cool.
Pulp Fiction one, so we'll see what she has in store.
That's awesome.
That's cool.
Um, I I don't think I have anything else. I think there's some other questions on here, but I think we've actually gone through them too.
Yeah, I think we have. Well, Coach, we really appreciate you coming onto the show and spending some time with us. This has been a true pleasure.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you guys having me, and yeah, like I said, I really like what you guys are doing. We got to continue doing this stuff, man. We got to build the league up, and continue to make it interesting and fun. And you guys are doing that, and I appreciate that. And good luck to your respective teams for the rest of the season. And no, it's been good.
Thank you. And good luck to you in the final on Saturday.
Thank you. Appreciate it,
Yeah.
guys.
Let's see here. Yeah, we don't have any questions. So, yeah, Brian, I'm good to go whenever you are.
Yeah, I I think we're good.
All right,
Cool.
fellas. Take care. Have a good night.
All right.
All right,
See you,
thanks,
Coach.
Coach.
Yeah. Bye.
And with that, that is our full preview of the Jägermeister Cup final. We had head coach Eamon Zayed on yesterday's show, and we had head coach Matt Glaeser on tonight's show. So, man, Saturday is going to be such an awesome match.
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, big shout out to both um, Coach Glazer and Coach Avon here to come on the show. And I know both of them have probably been super busy as far as I've seen other people interviewing them as well. So we just really appreciate those guys making time in their day to come on with us. That's awesome.
Yeah, it really is. I was not expecting this opportunity to happen, and I'm so happy that it did, because this was so much fun.
Hmm. I
Two
agree.
consecutive nights talking about League One soccer, a cup final, and we get to talk to both coaches. Like, come on.
Yeah, and two coaches that both obviously know what they're doing. Not only just being in the cup final, but I mean, just hearing them talk about their perspective, the respective clubs, and the matchup going in. I mean, you can tell these are two of the better coaches in the league for sure.
Yeah. When we were chatting with Coach Amon last night, um, I kept feeling like super excited, like hyped up and you know ready to go have some fun, And then chatting with Coach Matt tonight, like I felt like a sense of calmness there. It was
Hmm.
just very like, all right,
It
cool.
is really strange to see or to talk to both coaches back to back and then think about the way both of their teams play. I mean, you can kind of tell that their personalities do come through in the teams and kind of their philosophies match their their coaching ability because I would assume both of them coach in the same kind of way that they speak. So with Eamon yesterday, obviously a lot quicker talker, a lot more long-winded talker, and I think with Coach Glaeser tonight, it's a more measured kind of I don't want to say overthought or more thought, but it just seems like a more precise approach to everything that he says. So, and I think you kind of see that with the teams. So that's something I was not expecting to kind of pick up on. So I'm glad you did too, Rich. It's crazy. I think it's one of those things where you don't know until you know. And as we're kind of working our way through coaches at this point, I really think every coach that we've had on, you can kind of tell the way they coach and the way that they speak to us quasi media members, right? You really see the team's style come through in the way that they talk to you. So that was really
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. Ooh, man, that was fun.
Well, I feel like now, since we've had both coaches on, we got just a little bit of time. I think we got to find out where each of us sit and
Oh no.
where we think this one's gonna go. Didn't think we
Oh
were gonna get out
no.
of this one without giving some predictions, did you?
I was really hoping.
Man, I mean, if we just look at both of these teams, right? I mean, they're successful in the Jägermeister Cup. They're both successful in the league standings. These are two well coached teams, and they couldn't really be further from each other in the way that they approach the game. I mean, you see, Northern Colorado style is it's a more get over the top, make a lot of runs, a more what would it be? A more younger catered style of soccer, something that would appeal to more of the crowd or more people just getting into watching the sport. Whereas when you watch Forward Madison, you see a lot of measured thought and you see a lot of stuff going on that if you haven't been watching the sport for a while or you don't really care to get into the nitty gritty of what a team's doing, you might not notice what Madison does really well, which is make a lot of well thought out runs. And I mean, Coach Glaeser even said as much that they really put that emphasis on players to do what they need to do, but giving them the freedom to be able to move in the way that they want to move and having a personality. And I think it's something that we don't see as much in the league. I think there's a lot of teams that have that more quick pace style, and I think that just comes down to players being athletic and everything like that. But obviously, what Madison's doing is working. I mean, they're sitting in second place in the league standings right now, so there's definitely a spot for both thought processes for those teams.
Yeah, when I was looking through, man, any sort of stats that I could get my hands on to try to find some sort of storylines to chase down for questions tonight. There were so many similarities between Northern Colorado and Ford Madison. I mean, these are two very similar teams. Um, it's going to be a very fast, very direct, very free flowing match, in my opinion. And I wonder if he didn't really give us any hint into any of that methodology, but I'm wondering if Coach Glaeser is going to incorporate more hold up play in Saturday's match. I just have to believe that altitude is going to become an issue. Um, I don't know. I I just I wonder if Ford Madison is going to have a more methodical approach to their offense and how they work the ball up the field.
Mhm.
Because 90 minutes with veteran players in the altitude with a fast, free flowing game where you're constantly running into space, but trying to get back. Because if you think about Ford Madison's shape, especially the workload for the wingers,
Mm.
they are constantly streaking up and down the sidelines.
Yeah, they're box to
Um,
box for sure.
yeah, they just have so much responsibility placed upon them. Um, trying to do that for 90 minutes, man, that's a sight.
Yeah. I mean, I think I honestly see the beginning of this match being a lot more measured from both sides. Um, maybe to um, Colorado's deficit at the beginning. I mean, I think you have to get in there and start to calm your nerves down. I think that's going to take a little bit of time for both of these teams. I mean, we talked about it yesterday and earlier tonight that this is both of these teams' first opportunity to lift a trophy. So you got to think that some of that is going to be playing into the nerves. And I mean, they're professional players, yes, but everybody has those nerves, and when you have that responsibility placed on you to give the fans to give yourself and to give your fans and your organization such a big milestone achievement, it it's going to play on you a little bit. So I think this match is going to start off a little bit slow, but I have a feeling as soon as some of those butterflies go away in those players, you're going to see the ones where it leaves a little bit quicker and their pace is going to quicken a little bit. And I think by the time 15, 20 minutes rolls around, I think we're going to be in for a pretty big treat with these two teams.
So let me throw an over under at you for
Oh, okay.
shots on target. Because I'm looking at the the matchup for goalkeepers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Burn Shipman with Ford Madison, Lalo Delgado with Northern Colorado.
It's two
Those are
big
two.
names.
Those are two good keepers.
Mm-hmm.
And
I mean, we're spoiled for keepers, but yeah, these are definitely two. You could make the argument for either one of these being goalkeeper of the year.
yeah, um, you're gonna have to do something special to put the ball past them.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking like over under for shots on goal. Um,
Ooh.
with both teams combined,
Okay.
I'll set it at man. I'll set it at 6.
I'm gonna take the over.
Oh yeah, okay.
I think you're really gonna see a lot of shots on goal, but I think the goalkeepers are gonna shine in this one. I think um, the number I had in my head as soon as you said combined, maybe a little high. I would really have to look back at at the data for the season as far as like shots on goal goes for the majority of teams, but the number that came into my head right away was 13.
Wow.
I'm seeing like 7 and 6, but I feel like it's going to be one of those where there's going to be a lot of bodies in the box. So you're going to see a lot of shots headed towards goal that may get deflected on the way, and stuff like that. So I expect a really high intensity offensive performance from both of these teams, but to match that, just a goalkeeping clinic out of these two keepers.
Yeah, I can see that too.
I mean, we look at these offenses, man. I mean, we know what Northern Colorado can do, and obviously with what they've done in the Jägermeister Cup, they score goals, right? But you look at forward Madison. I mean, they're sitting on 28 goals in the league right now too, so they are no slouches in the goal scored department. And looking in the league as well, forward Madison has the least amount of goals allowed in the league with 13. So it's definitely going to be one of those where both offenses are going to be moving. They're going to be moving the ball into the box, trying to get bodies in, and both of these defenses are going to have to step up. And also, I mean, we can't forget here either, Northern Colorado in the league has only let in 17. So it's not like we're looking at a huge discrepancy between goals allowed from either of these teams. They both have solid defenses. They both have above average offenses. This is going to be a really good final.
Yeah. I think a key to Northern Colorado's success is going to come down to on the offensive side. I think it's going to come down to two things. They have to own the sidelines, but at the same time, they have to switch the ball quickly. And we know that Forward Madison, and the system they play, the shape, the formation that they play, um, enables them to move their personnel quickly, and so that's a huge defensive benefit for Forward Madison. But if Northern Colorado can overload one side, but then switch the ball quickly to the other side, I mean, it could lead to some chances. I think for Forward Madison on offense, with as direct as Northern Colorado plays, Forward Madison has to own the middle lane of the field, and they have to control the tempo of play through that middle lane too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head, and I think as far as Madison goes, they have the players, but specifically the one in my head is Christian Chaney. I mean, he does control the center of the pitch, playing as like a lone striker. That dude is one of the best in the league at playing that position. And we've seen it from Forward Madison multiple times. They are deadly on the break. The way that they must practice breaks a lot in practice, because the way they do it is just so smooth that it's hard for teams to be able to defend against that. And unless you have your back line ready to receive those guys coming in, I mean, it's a tough ask to stop those guys. That being said, I mean, you look at Northern Colorado, they might not be as direct through the middle of the field, but exactly like what you said earlier, Rich, that they go down the sides and get balls in extremely well. And I mean, we saw that all last season, especially with the bigger targets that they had last season as compared to this season. But I mean, it's going to be a battle of one team that will go direct up the middle and one team that'll go down the sides, with two very good goalkeepers and two very stout defenses. So I think the X factor really is going to be like Coach Glaeser said, the home field advantage in this league is huge. So, I mean, Northern Colorado fans are going to show out for this one. And knowing Forward Madison fans, the chance to get a trophy. I know how well they traveled down here to Omaha. I can only imagine the movement of the flock going over to Windsor is going to be significant. So how big that ends up being remains to be seen. But it's really going to be the intangibles. I think if both teams play a mistake-free game, this is going to be, it could be in a deadlock, and I think everybody would be thankful it goes to penalties right away if these two teams play a mistake-free game. So it's really going to come down, I think, to that, and then just conditioning, being in altitude. You have to think, though, with the amount of veterans that Forward Madison has, I think at this point, all of these players have played in altitude multiple times. I think they'll be able to kind of know what they need to do. And then maybe you see some of the dark arts of soccer to slow it down a little bit as well. And I think you hit the nail on the head with the hold-up play, too. I think that's going to be a chance for them to kind of catch their breaths early. But I think once we get into the second half as well, I think everybody's adrenaline's going to start to kick in. And those players they're going to be tired, but I think they're going to be playing through it a lot more than they would in a regular league match.
Something you said earlier makes me want to ask the direct question. You said something along the lines that NOCO may have like a slow start to the match.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think Forward Madison's going to strike first?
I don't think this one's going to be decided until late. I think it's. I don't want to give away my my prediction on this one yet, but I think it'll be decided late, and I think that there's gonna be a slow start for both teams. I really don't think either of these teams are going to be looking to come come out swinging, because I think both of these teams know what the other one is capable of. So I think both of them are going to be looking to build up a little bit more before they start going all at it. And I think these defenses and these keepers are so good that you're probably not going to see a goal until the second half at least. So as much as I would love to see it go to penalties, because that would be super exciting, I will say I think it gets done in regulation. I don't think it goes to penalties.
I thought about asking that question next, but I figured that was going to be too close to your prediction, so I that's why I shied away from it. Huh. Is there gonna? That's gonna be too close to your prediction too.
I mean, we can ask it, and I can go. I'll roll it straight into the prediction.
Will there be a clean sheet?
Mm-mm.
I agree.
No, I don't think it's going to be a clean sheet. I think these two offenses are, for as good as the defenses are, I think both of these offenses are too good to have a clean sheet on either side.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, I mean, we can just get into it. I mean, I have mine. I'll talk a little bit on it to give you time to figure yours out. But yeah, I mean, it's I think you have two coaches with two kind of different philosophies. I think you have even in the makeup of the teams, I think you have one that went with a more veteran squad, and one that wanted to get some younger guys, maybe some guys that are, I don't want to say more talented, but a little bit more creative with what they want to do. And to me, this cup matches are really made with players that have been there and done that before. So, I mean, I really think that I think altitude's going to be an issue at some point, maybe. Um, but I don't think it is a big enough issue that veterans on Forward Madison side won't be able to do it. And for me, it's tough. I've gone back and forth, thinking about it all week, and this is where I've landed today. But I think Forward Madison goes in and gets the job done, and wins 2-1.
I truly don't know. It's a huge toss up for me.
Mm-hmm.
You have the youth on Northern Colorado. They're already accustomed to the altitude.
Mm-hmm.
They've scored a ton of goals. We had in our notes here tonight that Northern Colorado has scored 21 goals, which was the most in the group stage. If you look at and they were playing in the West group. If you look at the Central group and the East group, you would have to combine the first two teams in both of those groups, and they still wouldn't pass the goals scored by Northern Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
That's incredible. But what gets me is that, and this is no slight to assistant coach Colin Falvey, but with Eamon not being on the sideline, you have to admit that that's going to have somewhat of an impact on the match.
I think so. Yeah.
And like I said, that's nothing against assistant coach Colin Falvey. And then you look at the other side of the coin. You have Forward Madison, led by a bunch of veterans. In group stages, they only went to PKs once, and it was against a team that made it out of the group stage. So they had and if you look at the other teams that they played in the group stage, I mean, to only go to PKs once against the teams that they played in the group stage,
Mm-hmm.
man,
It's tough.
that's, yeah, it's such a huge toss up. It really is. Um, yeah, I think I'm going to go with you. I'm going to go Forward Madison. Um, and the 2-1 scoreline is just too good. But in the spirit of not selecting the same score as you,
See, that's
I'm
the
going to,
beauty about going first.
exactly. I still think that both teams are going to score. I still think it's going to be a 1-goal differential. And I'll say, I mean, the only choice I have is Forward Madison 3-2 at that point.
Right. I mean, unless you really think it's going to be an offensive explosion, I mean, what more fitting an end to a tournament based on attacking than to go have like an 8-goal thriller, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, in an ideal world, if you're USL right now, you're hoping this is like 10-10 and then it goes into penalties and it goes to keepers and penalties. Like in an ideal world, that's exactly what you want. But
yeah, whatever gets the most casual fan at home getting an alert on their phone, like, oh, wow, it's 10-9 in the second half. Oh, I need to turn that on.
right. Or like we're moving on to the keepers and penalties. Like who doesn't love to see keepers take penalties?
Yeah. Because the folks at USL headquarters know that people like you and I are going to be tuned in
Yeah.
regardless. Like, we're going to be tuned in.
Yeah, I'll be watching it. It doesn't matter where I'm at.
Oh man, I'm going to be going back and forth on that pick all the way up till kickoff.
Mm-hmm. You have to put out a tweet right before kickoff. Like, all right, this is the final prediction.
I'm going to delete that tweet and say, no, this is my pick.
Oh, don't worry. We've got enough people that'll screenshot that and keep you honest.
Can you imagine what a Ford Madison victory parade would look like?
I mean, I can only imagine
Pure
that.
insanity.
Yeah, with that fan base, man, and with them, this isn't a slight on them, but with them having to wait as long as they have to be in a final and potentially winning a trophy. I mean, I can't imagine. I think that would be super cool. And just from, I've never been up there, but I imagine just from seeing the stadium from the camera angles and stuff that they've had at Breeze Stevens, that looks like a really cool downtown area. Even if you just did a little parade around the stadium, I mean, so cool.
I truly I can't speak highly enough of Madison, Wisconsin. I have an emotional connection to that city. I love that city so much. And every time I go back, I just have such an amazing time. Um, whether it's for sports, whether it's for drum corps, whether it's to see friends. I mean, it's always just such a great time. I love that place. Um, man, I so after chatting with Coach Amon last night, I seriously wish that um, USL would loosen um, their rule against throwing things on the field. Because how cool of a tradition would it be if Northern Colorado, after they won any match, like the fans would throw candy out on the
some, it's just some snack size Twixes. He said Snickers as well, but Twix was his jam. So, which,
I've always been one of the
man,
people leading the parade where if you throw something on the field, like automatic ban, like you're done. You're
right?
never coming back. I don't care if it's USL League One, because I've seen some of that stuff happen, and I'm talking about you. Um, I don't care if it's on the international stage. I don't care. Like if you throw stuff out on the field, like you're banned for life. Like you're done.
Yeah,
But if it's candy and it's Eamon's favorite stuff,
I I feel
like
like you get a
tradition,
pass if it's done in a tasteful manner. Like
yeah,
I don't think it's like when they what team is that in hockey that throws the is it the fish or the squid
the
on the
squid,
yeah.
yeah, Detroit Red Wings.
Yeah, I mean those dudes don't get banned when they throw a squid
No,
onto the
that's a
ice,
playoff tradition.
right? So I mean, if you win a match, everybody just maybe not throw them because Windsor, Colorado gets cold, and a cold Twix I think is like essentially throwing a rock at somebody. But maybe just like maybe you have one of the assistants or something just carry like a bucket behind him and you just toss it into the bucket.
Yeah, like fans could throw it out onto the field. Players could pick it up and then you let fans out onto the field and let them enjoy the snacks with the players and the technical staff and all that kind of stuff.
Let the ball kids go get it.
Oh, there's a good one too.
There you
I like
go.
that.
Ball kids get not only they get to hang out on the field, they get candy afterwards.
Yeah.
Sign me up, dude. I'm gonna pull the bench warmers thing and just have a piece of paper with a $50 bill that says I am 12 on it and just yep, I'll be a ball kid. Free candy, dude. Oh, it's a weakness. But I mean, in any case, this is going to be a great match, and I can't wait to see the result of, in my opinion, was a really cool idea and in season cup that the USL came up with, and then was the rights to everything, and then the financial stuff that Jägermeister put in. I mean, you can't really say enough that you had a big time sponsor come in for the first year of a tournament, and it ended up getting two teams that are really playing out of their mind in this tournament. So I couldn't be happier with it. Well, I lie. I could be happier with it, but putting my unbiased hat on, I could not be happier with it.
Sorry, I got a work text.
You're good. So I think it's going to be great, and I can't wait to see what the next iteration of this tournament will end up being. But what a way to kind of bookend it, and it's one of these two teams is going to walk away with the first trophy in their club history. So I think that adds another layer to it that just makes it as good as it possibly could have been.
Yeah. I really like this tournament, and I think USL fans are gonna grow to love it more and more. Um, I think there's going to be some fun additions to the tournament. And with the way that Jägermeister is buying into the tournament, literally and figuratively, um, they're heavily invested in this. They want to see this become a success, and I think it's going to continue to be a success. This is like year one, so it's an experiment and everything, but at the same time, um, this is like the start of something special.
Yeah, I think so. Well, hey, and anybody that's in Omaha, I mean, Omaha's shared stadium. I guess the other team that shares the stadium is headed to a final as well, so that's pretty neat.
Yep.
Sorry, I was watching. I just got back onto Twitter, and that was the first thing that came up. So
Man, I'm still sitting here like flip flopping.
oh yeah, I think that'll happen quite a bit.
I do not know. Oh man,
It's
this is
tough.
going to be a fun one though.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. But I think we're just about to that mark that we
Yeah,
usually hit. So
I think we are. By the way, the Four Rose single barrel. Uh, uh, oh,
worth it.
no, oh, no. Okay.
You gotta
Let me
bring
put it
it.
next to
There
my
you go.
face.
You gotta
There
put it
we
right
go.
next to the face. Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah.
It's good. I was deciding between this is the single barrel. I was also deciding they had like a couple different um or they had like a different variation, a few of
Hmm.
them that were on the shelf, but this is the one I grabbed. Um has notes of rye spice, uh apricot, pear, cinnamon, and toasted oak.
Very nice.
It's good. You can definitely get the oak and the spice. Um there's a little bit of sweetness in it as well, but this is good. I don't know if you saw me after that first sip when uh, Coach Glaeser was talking. I was like, oh, this is good."
I did not. I think it's the cup that makes all the difference.
Oh, it's got to be, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, total different, game changer. All right, everybody, thank you for tuning in to another episode of um, League One on the Rocks. We have a huge match ahead of us this weekend as Northern Colorado and Ford Madison go head to head for the Jägermeister Cup final. That's going to be on Saturday night at 9 p.m. Eastern time. You can catch it on ESPN Plus. So enjoy watching. I know Brian and I sure will. And I'll be flip flopping all the way up until kickoff. But thanks for tuning in to another episode. We really, really, really enjoyed these preview episodes. Huge shout out and huge thanks to both Northern Colorado head coach Eamon Zayed and Ford Madison head coach Matt Glaeser for joining the show, answering questions, and entertaining us with some fun questions along the way. This has been a truly special experience. So thank you to both coaches for being a part of the show, especially um, Coach Glazer making his first appearance.
Yeah.
Got to get his first cap. That's good. But it was also incredible experience to talk to Coach Amon as well. It's always fun to talk to him.
Yep. I agree.
So, yeah. But thank you everybody for tuning in to another episode. My name is Rich. You can find me on Twitter at I'm Rich But I'm Not. That is Brian. You can find him on Twitter at Mediocre Ace. And we will be back next week with more League One breakdowns and news and stats and discussions and all that kind of stuff.
All right. Thanks, guys.